Hello, cats and kittens. Orewa Jose Yoroshku. Back in the crisis corner, in the creative corner, with the conclusion of the epic creative commentary series featuring creative commentary on Intrepid Volume 1, Heroes and Villains. We've reached the final chapter, which is chapter 7. So let's get started. We'll start with our cover. This is clearly an homage to the cover of Fantastic Four, Volume 1, Volume 1, Issue 257. But to get the lowdown on that, check out the Anatomy of the Cover series. And I covered this and the alternate cover in that video. So it's a cool cover. Bruno Lehman did an excellent job on this one. So let's get down to the skinny. Now, our story so far, it states, Lieutenant Nadia Chavez's destructive rampage has been brought to an end thanks to Joseph Paxson, his newfound allies, and the Golden Brigade. But at what cost? The city of San Miguel lay in ruins with no survivors. The ranks of the Golden Brigade have been decimated. The tensions between the United States and Mexico have reached a boiling point. In an effort to make sense of this international incident, as well as to lift the shroud of conspiracy looming over the abduction of Paxton and the subsequent transformation of Lieutenant Chavez and others into living weapons of mass destruction, a special U.S. envoy has been dispatched to Mexico. The task now is to uncover the truth, to unmask the powers that be, who have evoked this bloody state of affairs. And while exposing the culprits may bring closure to a year's worth of machinations, the ramifications of this truth may stretch into the distant future. And that's true. Powers that be is about the conspirators. I'm a conspiracy buff. It's in my nature. I love action, I love adventure, but I love conspiracies most of all. So Intrepid is, first of all, it's a send up to the Fantastic Four, which is a book that I grew up on, that I truly love. But it's grounded in the conspiracy, who framed John Valiant. And over the life of the book, that conspiracy has to be unraveled. And the question has to be answered. But to end this chapter, or to end this story arc, I wanted to do callbacks to various things that happened in issues along the way. So tying up loose ends to various issues, scenarios, or whatever you want to call it, that happened along the way. For instance, the opening. The opening is a callback to the end of issue 1. What happened after the end of issue 1? We know that between 1 and 2, Paxton left Area 49 and went to Mexico. No, actually, yeah. He left Area 49 and somehow got to Mexico. By whatever means. But what happened? What did Thaddeus Payne mean when he said he was going to call in the new converts to help rectify this situation? Well, we know that his converts were what's the name of those brothers? The two brothers that went down to Mexico to capture Paxton and fought Paxton and Keith Dawson. We know he dispatched them, his Paxton's former teammates, to go and capture him, and resulting in San Miguel getting destroyed. What happened at Area 49? Well, there's the issue of the soldiers that came to pick to transport Paxson to Lord Townsend. Is another issue we'll get to. If you follow in the series, then you know who Lord Townsend is. Anyway, um, the areas, the soldiers that Paxson defeated, and the soldiers who came to escort him to Lord Townsend had to be dealt with, meaning that those cats were not fully in on this conspiracy. They were carrying out orders with limited information. They're just following orders. They're not all in on this conspiracy. They're tools. They're being used. And he tells, and Thaddeus Payne tells Dodson, the soldier who accompanied him to pick up Paxson and take him away, he tells him as much. He confesses that, had everything gone right, they'd have pucked him up, taken him to Lord Townsend, and that would have been the end of it. Okay, but it didn't go right. Paxson escaped, which means it's like depending on who you are, how old you are, you might remember the movie Capricorn 1, where the astronauts or the moon landing was supposed to have been fake, but something went wrong and the astronauts had to be eliminated because moon landing was faked, and nobody was supposed to know that. I think they were supposed to just keep quiet or whatever. Anyway, so they had to be eliminated. So all of these people have to be eliminated at this point because they're not supposed to know. They're not supposed to know the particulars of what they were doing. So in the end of it comes to the point where Thaddeus Payne calls in all of the former brats who have been again transformed into weapons of mass destruction to come and eliminate all of these soldiers. Now, mind you, when Paxson escaped, he didn't kill anybody. He just defeated them and left. Which was it was hardcore because it was 147 armed soldiers and he beat them all down and left. Left them all alive, unconscious, bruised and beaten, but he left them alive. Those guys, they're hanging with Elvis now. It's over. Okay. By the order of Thaddeus Payne. Okay, so what does that tell us about Payne? He's ruthless and evil, right? You see that this is a flashback. This is what Lord Townsend made him see, I believe, in issue 4. He forced him to relive this scenario. And it's causing him nightmares because we see that in current time, he's in Paris with Celia, who I like to compare to the evil version of Steve Trevor and Diana Prince or Wonder Woman, however you want to take that. And they're just hanging out because, again, the last we saw them was issue 4. They disappeared. They said their job was done. Everything was screwed up. They just had to take off and reset and figure things out. So they went to Paris and they've been eating croissants and doing whatever. So he's still having this nightmare. And Celia says, "Oh, so that's what Townsend made you see." Now, what does that tell us about Thaddeus Payne? He is not he's evil, or you could say that he's evil, but he has a certain amount of honor because he says that, although those soldiers were sacrificed, it didn't mean that he got any joy out of that. They were soldiers. They had to be sacrificed, but it brought him no pleasure. As opposed to Celia, who really doesn't care. She's like, which was a pretty cool line that I like. Sacrifices on the altar of this world's true gods. We're above them, that is. We are the shepherds and they're the sheep. If we decree their death, so be it. That's her attitude. While dude's like, yo, man, these cats were soldiers, man. I don't have to like it, but it is what it is. So he's tortured by that. But he did call in he called those guys in to do the killing. So I ain't really feeling that bad about him. Anyway, so in the end, they're in Paris, screwing about, and that's the end of it. So what happens to the crew? What happened to the Intrepid crew? You catch up again. We're tying up loose ends. They saved Nadia, true, but they broke a lot of laws doing that, and they have to answer. And we know that in issue three, well, these are issue three, the president dispatched Mark Benjamin to Mexico to investigate the situation. So here he is. He's got them. They're in a room and they're being investigated. So again, this issue is tying up loose ends and it's digging into the conspiracy. There's not a whole lot of action. There's not a whole lot of you know battles. There's no battles whatsoever except for you know Dotson and them getting curb stomped in the flashback at the beginning. That's what it is. You know. So a lot of this is digging into the why. What happened? Who did what? Why? And what do we do next? So there, again, it's wordy. First of all, the illustrations are fantastic. Again, Bruno did a great job. He did a great job, and it's we get the interaction between the teammates and Benjamin, who is functionally he is there. He is Commissioner Gordon to their collective Batman. So they're going to work with him in the future. He's, I guess you could say he's a handler. He's a handler for the group, essentially. But it's a partnership because the Intrepid team doesn't work for the government. They're operatives of the government, but they're essentially a independent business. Yeah, they're independent agents of a sort, but they work with the government. So he's interrogating. Well, and also filling them in on what it is that they don't know. So what I especially enjoyed about this arc was just writing these guys' interaction with each other. Bella is practical. She's looking for answers, and she's her usual optimistic self. Keith, he's a bit more laid back, still wants answers, but he's a bit more laid back and just, Keith is chill. Vincent doesn't want to be there, doesn't care about what's going on whatsoever. He just wants to get this over with and go home. And his body language always reflects that, arms crossed, kind of, brooding. and his interaction with Keith is cool. It gives you it doesn't give you full insight into how they know each other because they've known each other before. Because he threatens him at gunpoint, and Keith's reaction is, "Well, you want to do this? Let's go, man. It ain't no big deal for me. Let's do it." So they have it's a love-hate relationship, but you don't really get the sense that Vincent's going to kill him or wants to kill him, but he's angry with it because Keith dragged Bella into something that Vincent didn't want her involved in, and he's pretty pissed about that. And yeah, he pulls a gun on him, but I assure you, he wasn't really going to shoot him. You can tell because he gives up the gun, and they go back to talking. Where did he get that gun from? Because apparently they were patted down before they came into their room. So the question is, where did he pull that gun? We know nothing about Vincent. To be honest with you, this is the cool thing about this dude. You don't know anything about him, and he's done some questionable stuff. How did he survive that plane crash in 5? and came, survived unsinged in six. What is his power? You know, we're gonna get to that, but he plays everything close to the vest. Keith, Keith knows. They know each other. Keith's not telling, and neither is Vincent. So that's a little bit of a running gag here. So the essence of this issue is Benjamin telling them what has brought about the current situation. What has brought about this conspiracy that's going on inside of Guardian and the PPA? What does it stem from? And he takes them back. Again, we go back into some flashbacks when apparently there was an assassination of the president by John Valiant, first and greatest hero of his era, and that brought an end to the heroic age. Again, Intrepid is about uncovering the mystery of who framed John Valiant and why. Benjamin lets them know the results of that, which they already know basically. This is more for the reader than anything else. So you get an idea of the results of Valiant being framed. If the world believes that he did it, you know, you know, and he's been on the run ever since. He's public enemy number one, kill on sight. But that ruined everybody's impressions of heroes. So they've been banned ever since. And this has been over, 40, 50 years. Okay. But in that happening, a different form. It's like the whole coup d'etat type situation where shadow government fills the void of where the heroes used to be, and now you got a police state, and he's going over that. The issue of the who was holding Paxton prisoner at Area 49, which was a government sanctioned, although it was a shadow type installation, but it was government sanctioned. All of these little different cliques have risen up in the place of the heroes, and a lot of them, people can't account for what they're doing. It's all shadows. It's all, mysterious and furtive, So that's got to stop. Benjamin's thing is there's too much of that going on, and there's too many people who are not held accountable for their actions running around with impunity, just doing stuff. So they have to find out, who's behind this and whatever. Then we segue to Lord Townsend. The cat from issue 4 was stroking the cat sitting in the little chair, with the wing back, speaking to somebody on the phone. We don't know who. And they're discussing the situation as well. They know that Thaddeus Payne has failed. All he had to do was Townsend's thing is all he had to do was bring Paxton to me, and he failed. He's contemplating murdering him, but Celia would not stand for it. And apparently he doesn't want to cross her, at least not right now. So he's wary of crossing her. So whatever clique that these people are part of, the powers that be, there's a little fracture, there's a little power struggle going on within there. And he's got no interest in mixing it up with Celia at this time, so he lets Thaddeus live. But the person on the phone basically tells him, we'll clean this up, but they have to slow their roll down. They have to let this episode pass. The whole Area 49 incident, let it die down. We're going to lose some ground here, but we can't make too many overt actions because it will draw attention to us. So let things play out. They're not going to come after Benjamin. They're not going to do anything overt. Just let this play out. and then take appropriate action when necessary. So there's that. Now, having said that, Paxton comes back into the scene. Okay, where was he? You got the three other team members, and not technically a team yet, but they've been in the room for the interrogation. Where was Paxton? Paxton was checking on Nadia. Okay, we're not going to see Nadia for a while, but wanted to bring I wanted to bring in the fact that she matters in the story. It wasn't just like, we go save this person and then, you know, you just leave her off screen somewhere and not accounted for. So he wanted to save her, he saved her, and he's been with her uh, up until this point, and she's not doing that good from what we understand. But I'm just getting that out of the way. Again, this is filling in blanks, tying up loose ends. So again, we're not going to see Nadia again for a little while. By necessity, she has to get some things straight. But then Paxton, he's upset. He's like, why? And he notices that there are things out of place. First of all, why is Benjamin there? According to protocol, the deputy director of Guardian is supposed to be there doing this interview. Where is he? Well, we find out that the deputy director is dead. And this is going to be huge because Deputy Director Strong is actually the father of one of his former team members who's very close to him. Paxton, the deputy director's son, and Nadia were all part of a group. The Brats were very close. Matter of fact, the deputy director's son is extremely tight with Nadia. They're all tight, but they're romantically involved. But we'll get to that later. Now, how did he die? Well, apparently he killed himself. He committed suicide. But as we see from the flashback, he didn't commit suicide. He was murdered by Thaddeus Payne and Celia. And it made it look like a suicide, but Paxton sees through this. Doesn't make any sense to him. Again, he's doing the kind of the detective type thing. He sniffs it out and said, "This ain't right," whatever. And then essentially we have Director Benjamin telling him basically, "You're right. Guardian's been corrupted. There's a conspiracy afoot, and I called y'all here for a reason." Essentially, let me see. All of these pages that I'm flipping through is a conversation that they have. Now the question comes up. Paxton and all of them are wondering, well, you have this conspiracy going on. Why are we here? You know what I'm saying? Why? I mean, aside from getting the lowdown on what happened in San Miguel, whatever. What are you talking to us about this? His thing is, look, and this is a good little speech. I like it anyway. Well, first, I had to admit, I like this bit because Vincent pulls another gun. They took one away from him. He pulls another gun because he feels like maybe Benjamin is part of this conspiracy and he's called them in to silence them. And he's like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna have to shoot our way out of here." And Benjamin's like, "All right, first of all, where are you getting these guns from?" Vincent's like, "Yo, don't worry about where I get this gun from. Just worry about what I'm gonna do with it." Which is, it's classic Vincent in my mind, anyway. So Benjamin admits, look, I want you to be federal operatives. We need to find out who the mole is inside of Guardian, and I need you to help me do that. And besides that, you need to bring heroes back. The world's been without heroes for X amount of years, and it's turning into a police state. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. What we lost when the heroes were banned needs to be brought back. It needs to be that kinder, gentler aspect of heroism, that example that can be given to people who have powers but are not given the opportunity to use them to help their fellow man. But people have to see that people with powers can be trusted. And I need y'all to lead that fight, lead to help spread that example. Because Paxson was basically the poster child of the age of Guardians, and he had a tremendous amount of respect and a tremendous amount of trust with the public. And Bella is basically an international icon based on what she's done scientifically and just helping with working on cures for diseases and all other applications of her science for the betterment of mankind. Although not being able to use her powers to help fight bad guys, she has a tremendous amount of respect. So if those two can be the faces of this team, people would trust them, and then they would trust heroes again. Blah blah blah. So their thing is, I need y'all to help, bring heroes back. And then you get the last little dramatic speech where Paxton basically says, I get it. I understand what you're saying. The world needs heroes. They really do. But to be honest with you, I ain't one of them. He takes off. And that's just a cool cliffhanger to me anyway, because you thought this was going to be one of them, Fantastic Four joints, put all hands in, real team. Nah, we ain't a team. I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? Because, be honest with you, if you have been held captive and seen your friends tortured and killed and all of this horrible things that happened to you over the course of a year, would you really, first thing on your mind be, hey, let's be heroes? Nah, man, he just wants to leave. He's done with it. He wants to sort out his life and figure out what comes next. So he leaves. And then the next issue is life goes on. That takes us into the second story arc, which is Pandora's Cage. In that story arc, they truly do become a team, but not in a way that you expect. And, it's Intrepid is not so much subverting expectations, but it is telling a story, but not in the. It's telling a hero's journey story, but not in the conventional sense. You have action when appropriate, and you have bits like this, where it's basically. Self-discovery and stuff like that, and it's talky or whatever. But there's action to break that up. They haven't donned their costumes yet. They don't have a headquarters yet. They don't have, even a team name, but they're working towards that. And by the end of Pandora's Cage, they will officially be what they are, the Intrepid investigation and fugitive retrieval, essentially. So you got a couple of an old school Paxton back in his days as a Guardian officer. I am my brother's keeper. That was Guardian's motto. That's what they're supposed to live up to, and they've been corrupted and they've failed. Now, like I say, it's a police state. This is cool stuff, I think. The PPA, Paranormal Protection Agency. Keeping America safe. Really. And then that's just a cool little piece of fan art. So that's the powers that be. That's the end of the Heroes and Villains story arc. And those are my impressions of it. My off the top of my head impressions of how it came to be, what it means, what the story is about. I'm not going to do anything in the next. I'm not going to do anything with Pandora's Cage until after the arc is completed, which will be shortly. Issue 11 is being worked on right now, and 12 will be out shortly after that, and that will complete the second story arc. So thank you for hanging in there and listening to this. Again, this is all rhapsodizing, top of my head impressions, unscripted. You know, this is how the sausage was made, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll come up with more content as soon as possible. So, thank you for viewing this. Look forward to more content. Until then, stay loose.